My friend Jake and I wanted to go on an adventure and check out a town called Starlight Hills. Getting there was normal. We left home in the morning, had a nice drive, and got to our hotel by night. But the trip back home had a surprising twist. We started our journey back around lunchtime. Most of the time we spent driving was in the dark. The trip took about 10 hours each way, not including the times we stopped to eat. We had 2 food breaks. The first one was about 3 hours into the drive, and the second one was much later, well into the night. Around 12:30 in the middle of the night, we left the highway feeling hungry. We chose to stop at the closest fast food place, Tommy's Tacos. We quickly ate our food, got back on the highway, and were prepared for the rest of the long journey. I couldn't wait, so I began eating my burrito while driving, even though Jake wasn't happy about it. I just wanted to get home faster. After we started driving again, raindrops began hitting the car window. Jake, worried about our safety, insisted that I stop the car. We ended up on the side of the road with rain coming down while I finished eating, and that's when things got exciting. Suddenly, there was a loud noise on the window that surprised us. At first, I thought it might be thunder, but when I turned to my left, I saw a person blocking the window. Jake screamed, and I got scared too. With hesitation, I opened the door a little, and there was a woman outside. She was wet, messy, and looked really frightened. She asked if we could give her a ride. There was this lady stuck in the rain, and I couldn't just leave her there, you know? I told her to get in the back seat of my car. But then, my friend Jake gave me a look like, "Why did you let her in?" I asked the lady where she was going, but she didn't answer. Jake gave me another look, but I just ignored him and turned around to talk to the mysterious passenger. She looked at me in a strange way, with a cold and unsettling expression. It wasn't a friendly look, more like a blank and off-putting one. I asked her again, but she just shrugged. Jake, who was doubtful, looked at me. I said out loud that I would take the lady to the next town. I wanted both of them to agree on the same plan. As we drove back on the empty road, something surprising happened. Suddenly, there was a loud scream behind me. The woman in the back seat grabbed my throat, and I got really scared. I quickly hit the brakes, almost hitting the barrier in the middle of the road. Jake, using her long nails, scratched the woman's face, changing her screams from crazy anger to real pain. I got out of the car when the lady started screaming and holding her face in pain. I opened the back door, pulled her out, and left her in the rain. She kept begging for mercy, saying please, please over and over. I didn't listen, got back in the car, locked it, and drove away. The banging on the windows slowly faded away. While Jake was talking to the police on the phone, telling them about the lady who seemed upset on the highway, we kept going home. We felt scared from the strange situation but wanted to forget about it. Little did we know, more surprises were waiting for us. As we kept driving through the night, the rain got heavier. Jake and I looked at each other with worry. The inside of the car felt uneasy, and we couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. To lift our spirits, we chatted about the funny things we saw on the way to Starlight Hills, like the weird roadside attraction. I felt a bit uneasy, so I came up with an idea to make things more relaxed. I suggested we listen to some music, and Jake liked the idea. We went through different radio stations, enjoying funny songs and jokes from the late-night hosts. It made us forget about the strange situation for a while. As we drove along, we chatted about all sorts of things, funny stories from past road trips, our top snacks at rest stops, and even argued about the weirdest roadside attraction we've ever come across. It felt nice and lighthearted, especially compared to the creepy experience we had earlier. Just as we thought everything was calm for the night, something surprising happened. We saw flashing lights and police cars blocking the road up ahead. Suddenly, we felt worried again. Jake held onto the phone tightly. We walked towards the situation carefully, not knowing what was going to happen next. Luckily, the police were helping us because a big tree fell and blocked the road. It looked like a scene from a movie about a disaster. The officers were telling cars to go a different way to avoid the fallen tree. It was strange to see the wet road, the lights flashing, and the big tree in our path. As we took the different route, we felt really thankful. This unexpected change turned out to be lucky for us. The fallen tree on the road gave us a reason to avoid more problems on that empty highway. Finally, we're back at home, feeling tired but relieved. That weird thing we experienced is still on our minds, but the surprising twists during our road trip made it an exciting adventure. It's a story worth sharing, reminding us that even in ordinary moments, there's space for surprises. It was just a normal Tuesday night in March. I was driving home from my friend Alex's house in town. Usually, the drive takes about an hour, but that night, it became a bit challenging because a thick fog covered the long, empty highway. It was very late, well past midnight, and the road was strangely quiet. Every now and then, a truck with unusual license plates would pass by, making it feel like they were from another world. Earlier in the day, my friends and I spent a lot of time walking around town. We visited some new cafes, went shopping, and had a good time. When I began driving back later, I was really tired. My eyes were closing, and the dense fog made the highway look like a confusing gray blur. I was driving really carefully, and sometimes I went really slow, turning on my hazard lights to show other drivers I was there. Suddenly, a car showed up, partly on the road and partly on the side. I quickly hit the brakes and pulled over behind it, barely avoiding a crash with its back. My heart was beating fast, so I stopped my car to take a breath. Another car, a black one, moved slowly from the road to the side. The window on the driver's side came down, and someone signaled for me to stop. Feeling scared from the near miss, I chose to drive a bit away from the road and followed the black car as it turned onto a different street. The car stopped, and the driver's door opened. A tall, thin guy, in a black winter jacket and jeans, who seemed around 30 years old, walked through the fog towards my car. My headlights showed him. I opened my window a little, thinking he might say sorry for parking oddly. He told me to lower the window more, but I said no because I felt uncomfortable. I told him I could hear him well enough. He asked where I was going, and I just said home. He warned me about the thick fog, saying it wouldn't go away soon and it wasn't safe to drive. I told him I was fine with it. He raised his eyebrows and asked why I stopped my car. To avoid making things worse, I lied and said I answered a phone call. He smirked, not believing me. Then, he said he lived nearby with his family and suggested I wait until the fog cleared. I said no, but he insisted. He wanted to make me scared, talking about how it's more dangerous to drive in fog and saying I looked really tired. He also brought up my family, telling me to think about them before driving. Even though he tried hard, I didn't change my mind. But then he got even more mad, and when I looked at his car, I saw someone in the passenger seat I hadn't noticed before. Suddenly, he tried to open my car door by grabbing the handle, but luckily, it was locked. At the same time, the door on the other side of his car flew open, and another guy with a baseball bat started running towards me. I felt really scared and panicked. I quickly reversed my car when I saw trouble. The driver shouted at their friend holding a bat as I sped away. The bat swung close to my car, but I managed to avoid it in the thick fog. I turned my wheels, switched to drive, and hoped there was no traffic behind me. I hit the gas and joined the highway, but I felt really scared. It was a super scary moment, and even now, when I drive on that part of the road, I can't help but think about it. I wonder if those guys tried to stop someone else that night, and I sometimes think about what could have happened if I had opened my window more. As I drove away quickly, I couldn't stop thinking about some important questions. Who were those guys? And why did they try to stop me? Was it just a random act of meanness? Or was there something worse happening? The fog didn't just make it hard to see the road. It also kept the answers to these troubling questions hidden. During the road trip with my friends earlier today, we chatted, laughed, and told stories. I had no idea that this regular day would suddenly become scary. After the strange encounter, As I drove away, I felt both scared and curious, with my thoughts all jumbled up. Something surprising happened, and it wasn't just the unexpected meeting. What made it even more puzzling was that I wasn't sure exactly what happened. It was like there was a fog, both real and in my mind, making it hard to understand what went on. I couldn't stop thinking if there was more to the story that I might never completely understand. Thinking about what happened, I understood that life can surprise us, and sometimes we don't know what's going to happen next. As I kept driving through the fog, I felt like the night had hidden mysteries, and the strange things that happened would always stay in my memory. Before I continue to the next story, if you are interested in earning from YouTube without showing your face, or without making videos by yourself using artificial intelligence, like the video that you are watching right now, then I have a special free training for you. Check the first link in the description below to get instant access. A few years ago, I went on a really long road trip from California to Illinois to see my parents. I love driving, so I didn't mind at all. It usually takes me about 3 days, and I stop at rest stops or truck stops to sleep. I've slept in my car during trips before, and I once lived in my Subaru for almost 6 months. It wasn't because I didn't have money, I just liked the freedom of it. I was driving my reliable 2010 Subaru one night, around 11 p.m. I found a rest stop that looked like a great spot to stay overnight. Not many people were there, just some truckers. I parked my car far away from the few other cars that were around. After I put blankets on my windows to make my space cozy and private, I went into the rest stop building to use the bathroom and freshen up. There were only a few people inside, and it was quiet. I planned to leave by 6 a.m. the next morning, so I quickly used the bathroom and then went back to my car to try and get some sleep. I drove for almost a whole day and quickly fell asleep for about 5 minutes. Surprisingly, I woke up shortly after and realized I hadn't even been asleep for an hour. I heard a small noise, and I felt really scared and paranoid. I was lying down, not moving at all, holding my breath and listening carefully. Then, I heard another sound. Someone was trying to open the back door of my car from the outside. It was happening slowly and quietly. My heart started beating fast. I heard footsteps, but they were very quiet, and then everything became silent. I stayed completely still, too scared to make any noise. Then someone tried to open the back door on the other side, near my head. I sat up slowly and looked through a small opening in my window cover. I saw a man walking around my car with his back facing me. I closed the opening quickly, hoping he would go away. Everything seemed quiet for a bit, and I started to feel a little better. But just when I was getting more relaxed, I heard another sound, this time from the front driver's door. A man was playing with the lock of my car. Even though I was sure I had locked the doors, he kept trying. I really wanted to leave, so I searched for my keys in the darkness. Suddenly, I heard a click from the driver's side. The door was unlocked. I was scared when I saw him opening the door and getting into my car. I remembered seeing him at the rest stop before this happened. He laughed, closed the door, and I quickly pressed the unlock button to escape from my car. He chased me until I was about 50 feet away from the rest stop building. Surprisingly, he suddenly stopped. I reached out to someone for help and they called the police. Even though the rest stop wasn't crowded, it felt safer. I didn't have my phone or keys with me. They were still in my car. I went to the front desk inside the rest stop, told them what happened, and asked them to call the police. While I waited at the counter, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened that night. It was a scary experience, and I felt exposed without my keys and phone. When the police came, we went back to my car, but the person had already left. Luckily, nothing was stolen. I told the police exactly what the person looked like and explained that I saw him inside, just in case there are security cameras. After that scary night, I chose to stay at a hotel the next night. The road trip went on, and the days after were pretty normal. However, a surprising thing happened. When I was driving through a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, I stopped at a diner to get some food. While I was enjoying a milkshake and a burger, a nice truck driver named Jake started talking to me. He was also traveling like I was. We talked about our trips, and he told me about a pretty road that could help me reach my destination faster. I thought it sounded interesting, so I chose to take that different path. I didn't expect it, but taking this beautiful road led to something surprising. The path went through pretty views, and talking with Jake made the drive fun. We talked about life, the road ahead, and how cool it is to meet people unexpectedly. As we got close to a cute little town, Jake said we should take a break and walk around. The town was really nice, with old-fashioned streets made of stone and cool shops selling old stuff. We thought it would be fun to check it out, and then we found a small, comfy coffee shop. The smell of fresh coffee made us want to go in right away. We talked to the people who live here at the cafe and found out cool stuff about the town's past and secret cool places. It was a nice break from our usual stops at regular places for food. Exploring this cute town was a surprise, and it made my road trip even more special. After saying bye to Jake and my new friends from the cafe, I kept going on my trip. I felt really thankful for the surprising things that happen in life. The rest of the trip was normal. No more weird stuff happened, and I got to where I was going without any problems. Looking back at the road trip, I saw how the ups and downs of life, the good and the scary parts, change how we see things. It's the surprises, like the creepy night at a rest stop and the fun side trip through a small town, that we remember most. When I met my parents again, I just had to tell them all the stories from the trip. I felt thankful for what I learned and the cool stories I got from it.